it going?
Good, Heather. Now, warning, we are live,
Cool.
which I think I did to you last time too. But I've been having so much trouble getting all the live to sync up when it's supposed to actually start. So I
Oh,
figured
I
I'd
don't
get it
mind.
early so I don't waste a lot of your time.
I don't mind at all. It's cool. Hi, everybody.
And thank you for doing this short notice. What people don't
Sure.
know is I literally asked Heather probably not even 24 hours ago because our
Hmm.
other guest canceled. And
Yeah.
Heather was just like, yep, I'll be there, which,
I've
man,
done
that means
live
the world.
shows. I've
Yeah.
done live shows. I get it. So if I'm free, I'll help.
Well, I appreciate it. And the same goes for you, too. If you
Thank
ever
you.
need
Thank
something
you.
on the spot, I'm happy to help. That's the least I could do. This is like our third interview in
Yeah.
a few months, and
It's
I'm
awesome.
really grateful for that. So then why don't we dive in?
Let's go.
Because I have, I follow you, and I've been noticing through your content that you are all in lately on storytelling, right? And you're no stranger to it either. But lately, you seem to be doubling down on
Yes.
storytelling, and I'm
Yes.
curious, really, what's behind that? What sparked this whole journey down the whole storytelling road?
Twofold. There's a selfish component, and then there's another component that I think is sounds unselfish, but it's probably still selfish too. The more I guess admirable way of saying it is story makes an impact, right? And so if
Mm-hmm.
you want to make an impact, if you're really, 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 really serious about reaching and helping people, there's an element of storytelling. It's just the way that it is. And then on the selfish side, to be completely honest, I just freaking love it. I think it's creative, it's fun, it's interesting, it's human, it's not so egotistical and broy. We know a lot of the stuff we see in the entrepreneurial space is look at me, look at me, look at me. Storytelling is really about showing flaws in humanity and connecting and building bridges. So that's why.
Wow. Okay. And was there anything though? Because, like I said, I know you've been storytelling for a long time. I happen to think you do a great job of it. But it seems like this is like a big theme right now in your
Yeah.
content world. So,
Yeah.
was there something that really sparked it specifically, or it's just you just kept getting more passionate about it?
Yeah, I think the latter. I've really been trying to pay attention to that still small voice inside of you, and not to get too weird and woo or whatever. But I just feel like I believe in guidance, and I believe in trusting something else, and it's just been really pulling at me lately that this is the direction that I need to go. Recently, I've made a huge change in the agency. Our agency work was doing fractional COO work. Recently, have stepped away from all of that and giving myself a full year to really dive into storytelling and take it very, very seriously, which is scary, very scary.
Yeah.
But there's something deep, deep within me that says this is what you're supposed to do right now. And then also, there's such a need for it. I mean, I think you know this. Folks are just tired of traditional marketing. They're tired of being, this scammy language, this very robotic way of interacting online, and I don't see the internet going anywhere. In fact, digital identity is something that, whether we like it or not, something that we really have to wrestle with, and what it means to be a human on the internet. And so bringing that humanity, bringing the storytelling in, I think is strategic in the sense of it helps your business, it helps your podcast, it helps all those things, but it's also a service to people because we're reminding ourselves and each other what it means to be a human.
Yeah. All right. I want to get a little woo with you for a second. We've
Oh,
had
good.
these conversations a few times, and you're always like,
Yeah,
not to get too woo, but let's go there for a second.
sure.
I'm a big believer in following guidance, following that
Yeah.
voice that feels like it's just, it's telling you like this is the thing to do. But there are also times where I get confused between my ego voice and we'll call
Oh,
it
dude.
my
Yeah.
intuitive voice. So
Dude, for real.
how do you tell the difference?
I don't. I wrestle with that constantly. I journal every day, man. Like, if I miss my quiet time in the morning, it's a thing. I
Hmm.
really value, protect, and it's not some self help gimmicky BS thing. It's like a lifeline for me. Getting very still, very quiet in the morning, journaling, asking myself a lot of hard questions, really getting reflective. And one thing that I've been trying to bring back into my practice. I don't know if you're familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Big Magic. I was
Yeah.
recently at a retreat and she was really hammering home this idea of just asking for help. You know, as creators, as leaders, we feel like, I know I have felt like I need to do everything on my own. I need to figure it out on my own. These answers are supposed to just be there. But she just kept reiterating, like, you have a support system, and whether you call it God or guidance or universe or whatever, getting very, very still and just saying, what should I do next? Is this the right thing that I should be working on? And I mean, it works. Like immediately you feel things. Like there is an inner guidance calling us. So is this an ego thing, Heather? Is this something you should be pursuing? Man, I don't know how to find that out without quiet time. It's hard, and I probably missed the ball a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think that's all part of it, right? It's following that voice, trusting it, and then if it for some reason doesn't work out the way it was supposed to, or if you, let's say, discover, you know what, that was my ego, that's more data, right? Then
Yeah.
we can take that and be like, okay, and then the next time if we did follow it and it was the right voice, for lack of a better term, then write that down and collect that as data, and you'll start to find that distinction. I think even though I'm with you, I'm
Yeah.
still looking to find it. It's still a bit of a challenge sometimes.
And I'm bad at this. So I'm going to say something that I'm aspiring to. I'm really
Okay.
working on giving myself more grace and more mercy and not being so hard on myself to have everything figured out because, I think of my girls and especially my oldest, she's in middle school now. So she's really, that inner critic is really starting to come in. And as her mom, I'm just always looking at her with like such compassion. I'm like, it's okay. It's not a big deal. If you screw up, you screw up, move on. And there's so much compassion there. And the fact that she even cares shows me her integrity. It shows me what kind of person she is. And I'm just proud of her, not because she executes well, but because she gives a crap. And
Mm.
so if we could give ourselves that same grace of like, yo, Heather, you're going to F up and this isn't going to be perfect or whatever, but at least you care. At least you're trying. At least you're doing your best. I think that's all we're held accountable to.
Yeah, I'm with you. And earlier you said something about asking the question, right? Like asking for help. And when you were saying that, I mean, is that really a question that you're asking yourself, or is that more literal, like go out and ask for answers to others and see what sticks?
I feel like you are so in tune with what's going on with me right now. Like this is literally what I've what you're asking right now is so relevant. Literally asking for help every morning. So it's imperfect, but I just like close my eyes and I get really quiet and tuned. I'm like, I make a list every day of like what I need to get done or whatever. I'm like, is this what I need to be working on? Is there anything else that I needed to know? Just asking just general questions. Sometimes I hear things, sometimes I don't. But then from a literal sense, I was just having this conversation yesterday about how I don't ask for help from
Uh-huh.
people. I do
Uh-huh.
not do that. I admire how much you reach out and you pull people in. I don't do that. And I've limited myself of how far I can go. And so I literally was journaling on it this morning and I told my friend yesterday that that's my next challenge is thinking of people in my network and putting myself out there a little bit more.
What do you think it is about that? I know we're not even getting into storytelling yet, but
I
I'm
don't care.
curious now.
Um, Well, I mean, there's the cultural conditioning. You grow up a Southern Christian girl in the Bible Belt, you get taught, that you're a servant, that you're here to serve, that you're to lay your life down for people. There's an element that's so beautiful to that. There's also something really destructive because as a leader and a creator, you kind of get in this martyrdom thing where you can't grow and expand and you worry that you're inconveniencing other people. You're worried about the no, you're worried about I worry about bothering people. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to bother them. They're busy. You know what I mean? So there's just a whole bunch of elements in that, which is complete BS. But like my therapist told me a couple months ago, she said, you can understand something cognitively, but in your body moves a little slower and it takes time for your body to catch up to your brain. So I
Mm.
can know that I'm on this airplane and it's probably not going to crash, but my body still might be shaking because it's been conditioned to respond a certain
Mm.
way and it's just slower.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Okay, so then let's get into that storytelling for a minute, and thank you for sharing a little bit more about your
Sure.
struggle. And I totally relate to it too. Asking for help can be a challenge, and like you said, for all
Yeah.
those reasons, whether it's just bothering somebody, or there's sometimes like too much pride in myself, like, oh,
Sure.
I can figure this out, like, why do I
Yeah.
need somebody else's help, right?
Right.
uh,
Yes.
so all right,
Yes.
so then let's talk a little bit about it, storytelling, because yes, I agree, I know a lot of others, it's an effective strategy for so many areas, not just content creation and podcasting, marketing, advertising, public speaking, you name it. Really, it
Hmm.
could fit in any category, in any career. Yet so many of us struggle with telling our own story and feeling like maybe we don't have a story to tell, or it's not nearly as compelling as these other stories that we've heard that have made a difference in our lives. So why do you think that is? Why do people struggle with this, and how can they get more comfortable telling their story?
You get more comfortable telling your story by doing it and being around people who are doing it. So you have to challenge what is normal. The people you are around, the people you spend time around, will dictate how you see this world. If I'm around a bunch of people who are closed off, don't share their story, aren't putting out content, aren't doing the things that I want to do, I'm going to feel weird because I'm like, no one else is doing this. No, no, no. Your perception of no one else is doing this. But when I change that circle and I'm around people like Mark, who's always putting himself out there, who's very vulnerable, who's whatever, that is now normal. Now everybody's doing it. Mark's doing it. Why am I not doing it? So that's kind of how you get over it.
Mm.
Why is it hard? Because it's opening a wound. If you think about, when we get hurt, when something happens, we immediately cover it up, right?
Yep.
We don't want to expose our pain. And when you open up and you show my kids, when they hurt themselves, I'm like, show mom, show mom. And it's like, no, I don't want to do it. Because when you open it up, they're allowing me to probably hurt them more. Or they
They
feel
feel
like
like
that.
it.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So, I'm not saying we should, in fact, I'm pretty against like sharing open wounds too much unless there's like a really, really good point for it. But we can still have that locked memory of like, man, that was painful. Do I really want to open up and show this to people? And then also, too, to your point on pride, and I respect and echo what you said about, just your pride, like, oh, I should have this figured out. We don't want to appear as beginners. We don't want to appear weak. We want people to look up to us and admire us and think we have our stuff together. And our assumption is when we show that we don't, that people will think less of us. And we know, the contrary is true. I end up respecting you more when I know what you've struggled with, but we don't give ourselves that grace. So, I mean, it's tricky, it's hard, it's not easy. And that's why a lot of people don't do it.
So then, what would you say? I'm trying to think of it really, like, maybe work with me here on a little bit when we talk about storytelling. For example, so you know that I'm live in the Asheville area, and we were
Yeah.
hit hard with
Yep.
the floods,
Yep.
and I mean, I certainly have a story to tell about that. My wife and I decided on a whim we were going to rent a truck in another state, get people to donate money, and fill up this truck with as much as we can and bring it in to Western North Carolina, some essential supplies. And I struggle with like what's going to be an effective way if I were to actually make a piece of content about this. I've shot all the footage, I've done all the things, but I feel like I don't know how to tell this story.
Mm.
So where should I start? Let's go with that. Where should I start? I have some content I can put out there. I have this story. What do I do with all this to make it come together?
That's a great question. I'm gonna steal this from a filmmaker I interviewed yesterday. His name's Jay. What up, Jay? And he said whenever he's approaching a project, he gets really still and asks himself, when was I moved? Where am I moved in this? And what is
Mm,
moving me? Because a lot of times I know I do. As a creator, I'm thinking, what's gonna move the masses? What's
yeah.
gonna have an impact? When if we can get smaller as creators and get really still, be like, where do I feel a shift inside of me? And not judge it, not be like, well, that's not interesting enough, that's not cool enough, or whatever. But honoring what is moving to you, because then you're going to create something that's more honest. So if I want to create, what just happened with the hurricane, what does it feel like for me, like as the human going through that? Was there a moment that something just really pulled at my heart? Was there, what am I feeling right now? And getting really, 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 really micro into that, so small that it feels insignificant and scary, and that's where you find your story.
I like that a lot. I'm trying to even, yeah, I'm trying to think of where I was moved in that story. But I love that because, yeah, I think as content creators, that's where we go. It's immediately what's going to move everyone else.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about that one little thing, and you said it can be that insignificant thing, but like I'm having a hard time getting my hands around that. Like if it feels insignificant, I feel like I'm just going to discard it. So like
Right.
how do I tune into that? You know what I mean?
I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to get really micro here if that's cool.
Mhm.
Before I got on this call, I was working on something I'm about to record. Years ago when I was in my early 20s, I always wanted to be in ministry. That was, I think I
Mhm.
told you that
Yep.
a long time ago. So I went to this school to become a minister. It's really funny now. But a lot of people who are in ministry, they, especially when they're starting off, they kind of live off donations.
Mhm.
And so there was a point, I was 2021, and I really needed some new clothes. I was gaining some weight. My pants weren't fitting anymore. Things were getting tore up, but I didn't have any money. I had no money, and I was so embarrassed because I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am, a grown up, and I need new jeans, and I can't go buy new jeans, and I don't want to go ask somebody for that. That's humiliating or whatever. And so I decided to not say anything, not tell anybody, and just pray. And I was just like, God, I need new jeans or I need new clothes or whatever, but I don't have any money. And I've heard it so strong. Go give your clothes away, the clothes you have. And I was like, that don't make sense. If you need clothes, why are you going to go give your
Yeah.
clothes away? Right.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, I end up taking all the clothes that I had except for what I was wearing, and I went and I gave them away.
Wow.
I swear to God, that night, somebody told me, they're like, hey, you know that rich kid college down the road? They're doing a free yard sale right now. It was the end of semester, and all these like really wealthy college students were just getting rid of their clothes. And I came back with these huge black trash bags filled with like brand name clothes, tags still on them. And that night, my closet was full. So it's a really cool story, and I wanted to share it on social because I'm at a point in my life right now where I am really reaching for something, but I don't see how it's going to work out, and I feel very called to like make space so something can come in.
Mhm.
Now that's a cool story, right? But as you and I are talking, a huge element to this story is my embarrassment, my shame, because when you don't have something, when you're working really, really hard and you need support, you need financial support, you need somebody to help you, there's so much shame that comes with that. And my story, the actions are cool, but me getting really deep into the emotion of the shame and the embarrassment and I'm closing a lot of my business down right now so I can pursue storytelling. That's embarrassing. Like most people are trying to get more money and I'm like, nope, let me drop some clients. You know what I'm saying? And so it's very, very humbling, but I hope people can relate to that because it is vulnerable. And that's what I mean by getting really, really micro in it. It's not just a list of things that happen. It's really acknowledging the embarrassment, the shame, the sadness, the anger, the what fill in the blank that you feel when you were going through that. And it's hard as hell, dude, admitting it, but that's the reel I'm working on next. We'll see what happens.
Okay, good. We'll look out for that
Did
one
I
then.
answer your question? I don't
I
even
think
know.
so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so because to me what you're saying it is about finding that particular vulnerable moment, almost that moment that you normally would say, "Oh, there's no way I would share that." But that's
Yes.
probably the moment to really zero in on and at least explore like let's see what this would look like if I did share that
Yeah.
and then see where that goes.
It is important, I think, to share from a place of healing, though, of things that, like I talked earlier, I'm not an advocate for open wounds, and just
Hmm.
because that can be triggering and traumatizing, like let's say, and it will happen. I'll post this video, and some asshole in Vermont will be like, But now that like I know who I am, I'm healed from that. That was a long time ago. I'll probably roll my eyes at dude in Vermont, but it's not going to like pierce me. But if I talk about something that I'm going through right now that hasn't been healed, I don't want to open my wound to strangers who could potentially cause more harm.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, all right. My next question was going to be about or what's the most effective way to build an emotional connection with your audience, but I think that's it. We found it here. It's really finding that moment that where you feel particularly vulnerable and explore that as part of your story, or the part. Would you say part of or the part of the
I'd say
story?
the part.
Okay.
I think everything else serves that. And I think if a sign that you probably hit it is if you think, oh, but that's just me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because when you get down that micro where you're like, oh, that's just me, most people probably don't feel that way. Ding, 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 you found it.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to take it from our own stories. And when we talk about podcasters and even YouTubers, there are a lot of interviews that are being done, much like what we're doing. And I'm sitting here having you telling your story. So, how do I take something from a piece of long form content and find that moment of their story to share? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's tricky. I had somebody the other day, he came on and he had got a hell of a story, just some hard stuff. And
Yeah.
I was sitting here, I had Premiere open, and I was just sitting here wrestling with this stuff because there was a lot of good clips of like some trauma porn, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my husband came in, and I was like, I'm really wrestling with this because there's some good clips that I would know I get a lot of traction, but I also want to honor the hell out of this story and make sure that I'm not using his pain to build my podcast. And
Yeah.
it was really hard figuring out how to do that. And that's not like every interview that I have. And I know things aren't always that deep, but it's trying to think about this balance between serving the audience and also honoring what was trusted with you. And I think context is usually what I go back around is how do I wrap this in a way that has a beginning, middle, and end? Because when we think about repurposing content, we're like, oh, this is just me clipping shit out and spraying it everywhere. And that doesn't work. There has to be a beginning and a middle of end. And your podcast has a beginning, middle, and end. But when people are coming into a clip, they haven't heard that beginning and middle of end,
Right.
right? So it's our job as creators to create context and have a start and a finish, even with our clips, where people can even if they don't go listen to the show, which I know is our goal, but even if they don't listen to it, it was framed in a way that has a conclusion. And there's not, a lot of interpretation. Like this guy who shared this really crazy story, if I just took out the trauma parts or whatever, and this happened, this happened, this happened, I wasn't really highlighting that, he's a freaking badass now and he's healed and he's helping people and so forth. And so if I were just exposing the good clips without a conclusion and context, yeah, my clips might have worked, but it was a huge disservice to him. So something small, like if people are just talking about, how to organize your room better or whatever, something that's not like that or whatever, I still
Yeah.
would say beginning, middle, and end because we need satisfaction. People want to be satisfied when they watch something. The cliffhangers and kind of illusion might be sexy to you, but it loses people.
So then, all right. So are we basically looking to find the vulnerability in the person's story and make that the focal point, and ultimately looking to conclude it with that perseverance or that story of success at the end? Like, how does that all fit together?
For me, and everybody's different. For me, I'm looking for takeaways. Like what I assume nobody's going to go listen to the show. I assume that. I don't start with, I want to go have people go listen to the show. I know that sounds really weird, but I can't control if somebody goes and listens to the show, but I can control if they got value.
Mm.
And if they got value from me in the show, then they're more likely to go like, I'm going to stick around with this girl because this stuff has substance to it. So for me, the clips are less about pointing people to a bigger thing and more about a standalone piece of content that has value alone. So what I'm looking for are usually takeaways, something quick. I think I told you this before. I always write down what's the takeaway. What is this about?
Hmm. So then, all right. So I've been looking at your content and where you're pulling clips from your show, and I see that at least my interpretation is that you're experimenting with different
Totally.
formats, right? Like
Yeah.
I've seen horizontal clips that go 5 minutes from you. I've seen horizontal clips that go a couple of minutes, and then same thing like vertical. I've seen short form and a little bit longer form. What are you doing there, and have you found something that you feel like is working better for you than the other?
The only thing that's I can always point to that works the best for me is the narrative scripted content that brings in the clips, like the chair thing. And if I bring in a guest in that works the best. The other pieces are kind of more experiential. And honestly, I do a lot of it for the guests too. So they have stuff that they can share if they want to and pieces
Mm-hmm.
of their story. Like I told you before, I just made the leap to go into this full time and to spend way more time getting data and all that. So hit me up in like 6 months and I'll have a better answer. As of right now, we're just resharing clips here and there to stay present and active, but we don't have like a strong strategy around it. I think the only thing I can always point to is narrative, like the chair stuff.
Okay. And I have to dig in deeper
Sure.
because there was, so yes, you've shared with me in previous interviews. I think the last interview we had, you said to me that you were reprioritizing things with your business and that it was going to be create first and business second. But now it feels more like business is almost
Gone.
gone,
Yeah.
or at least way on hold. So how is that going? Like, how are you feeling about it
It's
now?
hard. It's hard. I mean, I'm still doing like consulting, coaching. I have clients who, just I work through strategy. But as far as our service-based stuff, it's done, and that is fresh. It's the past week or two.
Okay.
So how's it going? It's thrilling. It's hard. It's scary. It feels immature. It feels risky. I was telling somebody the other day though, I have to give this a freaking shot. And I'm in a place of privilege right now where I've been working hard for several years and I've built up enough cushion that I can take some time to figure this out, and that's a privilege, and I want to be honest about that, because if you're working to put food on the table and paycheck to paycheck, you don't have that option,
Right.
so that's not that everybody's recipe. It's something, just a unique position I'm in right now. We'll see. I mean, you might see Heather fall flat on her face, but
What
we'll
is
go.
what is the goal for you then? Like, okay, so the business put aside, what are you hoping ideally happens like as you go down this path? What's the end
I
goal?
want to
What's
be
the
a
end
full
game?
time content creator.
What does that look like to you?
The show. I really want to build up the show. I I view social different, maybe incorrectly. I want to explore how to use short form content like a filmmaker would. Like, so when I say filmmaker, I don't mean features. I mean, how do we bring filmmaking into social and make
Hmm.
interesting short form? I love short form, love it. So there's a lot of pieces that I'm working on that are narrative, that are not in the chair, that are scripted, that are have a story to them, and I'm going to be testing a lot of that out. But I think I don't think we have really seen what the next iterations of media is going to look like. It's going to be wild and different, and I think some of the leaders are here.
Okay. So then what is it? Like, is this going to be something that you create these mini movies, I'll call them, and then monetize them, or are you doing this for other people? What does that look like?
I don't know, Mark. I don't know. I want to do
Well,
it on
come on,
my own.
Heather.
I don't know. I don't know. I am a firm believer of action creates clarity. And whenever you have a nudge, you go after that nudge and the next step is revealed to you. I don't know what it's going to look like.
Okay, that's totally cool. I respect that. I
Yeah.
respect that you're just following the path and seeing where it goes, which is so challenging for a lot of us. All right, so my final question to you is for the content creators that are
Mm.
listening right now that are struggling with storytelling. Like, what's one thing you can give them that they can walk away with and get on that path? Yes, it'll still probably be challenging. There'll still be some obstacles along the way, but what's a piece of advice you would give them to and help them get on that path and get moving?
Get healed.
Mm,
Get healed. Get healed and wrestle with your own shit and figure yourself out, because then you'll figure out if creating something is meeting an ego need of validation and something you feel like you have to do, or if this is something that you want to do
mm,
desperately. Um, I really want to do this. I love this. I get in a bad mood when I'm not creating. I really do. I'm not a
mm,
pleasant person. I'm like, I just want to be writing or doing something, or so get healed. And then through that healing too, you know, being able to get over some of this insecurity stuff. There's not a freaking hack to get over insecurity. It has to come through your own healing, you know? And I don't even, there's an element of like, just do it. That's cool. But there's also an element of stop doing it and
mm.
sit down for a minute and tune in and be for a little while. It's so fucking noisy in this world, man.
Yep.
There's so many people pulling, and I just believe in all my heart that we know deep down what's the next direction, but we're just not quiet enough to really listen and go there. All this shit and storytelling, you can learn it. There's so many YouTube videos. It's not, and everything that I said right now, there's like 5 other creators who've done the complete opposite and they're killing it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody has their own recipe. I think at the end of the day, we just need folks who are healed. We need folks who are lit up. We need folks who are tapped in, trying, and really in tune with what they were put on this earth to do.
Yeah, I that's a such that was not the piece of advice I was expecting, and I am so connecting with that. I'm just thinking about some of the people listening and saying, "Oh, whatever, I don't need to heal myself. I can get all those
That's
videos,
okay.
and I'll know how I'm doing it."
Yep.
But I do think there is something to that.
Yeah.
I think they'll never quite feel right about it until they are healed about the content that they're making. Right? I think there's really something very profound about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you again for doing this and
You're a cool
unconventional.
dude. You're a cool
Thank you,
dude. I
thank
really,
you.
I love when we talk. It's so deep and refreshing and interesting. You're a phenomenal host.
Oh, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. As are you. And Unconventional Leaders is where we can see you
Mm-hmm.
doing your hosting thing. So
Yep.
go to heatherparody.com and you can find that and all the things that Heather's up to. And are you still doing your behind the scenes videos?
I am. Yep.
Awesome. I'm loving those too. I haven't seen it lately, but of course I've been pulled all over the place over the past few weeks.
It's
But
understandable.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, good. So check that out too, because Heather will show you her processes behind the
Mhm.
scenes, and there's a lot of good stuff there. So
Thank you.
again, thank you, Heather. Really
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you.
you.
I appreciate it. This is awesome.
All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna finish up the show. You are welcome to
He's
leave.
kicking me out. You're telling me to
No,
leave. Like,
you
none of
can
this.
you can hang
You're
around. I
joking.
don't mind. I know
Bye.
you got things to do.
Take care.
See ya. Thank you, Heather. So good to talk with Heather Parody. And as promised, I did say I would spin that wheel of topics. I'm sorry, not the wheel. I say the wheel of topics because I do the podcasting morning chat every Monday through Friday. And usually, or sometimes on Fridays, we spin a wheel of podcast topics to talk about. But no, I'm spinning a wheel of names. I was surprised. This is a list of only about a dozen or so. And usually we get 3, 4, 5 times that. So, lesson for us to know, we got to promote this even more. And good news, if you don't win today, there will be more shots to win. We're going to keep doing this weekly until further notice. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to be, when we're going to stop, but we should be doing this for a little while. So if you don't win today, or if you didn't get to register today, there'll be more chances to do that. I'll show you exactly how. But first, I want to spin the wheel. So let me hit that little share screen button. And then I'm going to choose the wheel. Here we go. Yes, here we go. So as you can see, there's only like around a dozen people on this wheel. So good luck. Let me spin it. I'm not sure if the sound is playing for you or not. Who's it? It's right on the, oh, Joseph Talentino. Now, Joseph, one of the rules, you have to be here to win, and you are here. I see you are here, Joseph. So you are the winner. We should, and I'll double check it, we should have your email address as well. So we will reach out to you and let you know the details. It doesn't happen instantly when your name is pulled. We do a few things behind the scenes, so we'll reach out to you and let you know the details. Congratulations to you, Joseph. And remember, if you were on that list or if you failed to get on that list of potential winners, you can do it again next week. We put the information in the weekly Minvo Minute. That's Minvo's newsletter. So you'll find out exactly where and how to register in next week's edition of the Minvo Minute and the Minvo Procast. So join us and keep trying. This is, we've given away like 3 or 4 of these so far and looking forward to doing more. So let me stop sharing and say thank you for joining us on the Minvo Procast. We're back again next week. We've got a lot of great guests between now and Thanksgiving and actually into December as well. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the Minvo Minute to learn more about these upcoming guests and giveaways. And until next Tuesday, make it a great week, everybody. Take care.